What's up? It's Cade. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're going to be going over my top photos from 2025. This year was filled with a lot of ups and downs for me. I got a new camera last fall, the A7 IV, which I'm filming on right now. I started working part-time for Waldman Media, moved to full-time, I had knee surgery, I shot multiple shows for Unwind Comedy and Surf City Promotions, shot a concert for my school, did a ton of grad photos, and got to shoot a ton of cool stuff for work with Waldman Media. So today we're gonna go over some of my favorite shots that I've gotten throughout the year. I'll talk a little bit about them, why I think they stand out in my portfolio, and then I'll throw in some honorable mentions as well from the same shoots, so you can see some of the others I was deciding between to pick from. All right, let's start off with this awesome shot of this Brabus 1000. I took this on my first on-water shoot with Waldman Media. We were following from a chase boat and shooting this boat across the San Diego Bay. We had great partly cloudy conditions, which softened the light, and you can see here I cranked the shutter to get everything as sharp as possible. We got super fortunate with the distance between ourselves, the subject, and the background, creating a nice separation, but still leaving enough space to see the entire San Diego skyline. This was shot with a 70-200 G Master II, an absolute beast of a lens. Here we have some honorable mentions, just some other awesome frames I got on our shoot down the San Diego Bay. All right, moving on to photo 2. This is a portrait of my friend Gab in Breckenridge. This image stands out for a couple reasons. First, this was shot in conditions I rarely get to shoot in. It was below freezing and actually snowing. The cold white of the snow contrasts beautifully with skin tones and any other colors that show up on the subject. I also love how the blue hat, her blue eyes, and the bluish trees in the background complement each other to emphasize that cold atmosphere. And if you really zoom in, you can see snowflakes streaking across the screen. I mean, I never get to see that in any of my photos. And here's a couple more shots from the shoot. You can see Gab with her cross-country skis and skins, and Spencer running all the way back to the car because he was so cold. Okay, now for the third shot. This is an image of a guitarist playing at an event for Surf City Promotions. I like this one because it's the perfect mix of sharpness and blur. It gives you just enough context to see what's happening in the image, but enough out-of-focus elements to create that mystery and emphasize the energy of the concert. As you may have seen with some of my other concert photos, I've been experimenting with flash and how it interacts with subjects on stage, especially when leaving the shutter open for longer. Okay, moving on to image 4. This image represents some of the coolest parts of my job at Waldman Media. This Ferrari 488 Spider was one of dozens of hypercars that Ira and I got to shoot and drive up in Orange County for Iluso. While most of my work for this client was standard inventory photos, occasionally we got to pull the cars around and position them in places that we thought would look great for Instagram. The diagonal line slashing right through the Ferrari logo created a cool contrast between the light red and the dark red. This also emphasizes how color hues change dramatically when in darker or lighter light. You can see the lighter red looks much more orange and the darker red looks almost pink or purple. This was definitely one of the biggest challenges while reproducing color across dozens of different cars. And for the honorable mentions, here are a couple of the other awesome cars I got to drive. For my fifth image, I selected one of my favorite grad shots that I took this past spring. I did get a bunch of traditionally good ones, but this is one of my favorite artistic photos that I took. Like I said earlier, I've really been enjoying slowing down the shutter to get that natural motion blur. The hardest part is finding a balance between sharpness and blurriness when you're trying to achieve this artistic look. And this photo does a perfect job combining the two. You get a nice blurry vignette around the edges, but in the center where the subject's face is, it's nice and sharp. In post, I made it black and white and added a little grain just to sell the effect even more. And for the honorable mentions, here's some more classic shots I got for graduating seniors. All right, moving on to image 6. This is a shot I got of Blast while shooting a concert for USD. I think this makes for an interesting portrait because of the darkness on his eyes. You can't really tell what he's looking at, but that's not even the focus of the photo. The highlight streaks down across his face right onto his lip, which is perfectly tack sharp. This photo also demonstrates gear mastery as well. When shooting in a dark environment like this, balancing shutter speed and ISO to minimize grain and camera movement is a difficult task. And I think this photo does a great job representing the balance between the two. You can see in most of these honorable mentions, I opted for a black and white preset. This is because the color cast was just so bad from this onstage lighting. For image 7, I selected a shot of Frank Castillo at an Unwind comedy show up in LA. This was one of my favorite portraits from the first half of the year, and I was able to print it in my advanced photo class. Like the blast photo, this image can pop off the screen while separated from that perfectly black background. I also love how the blue of his hat and his sleeve frame his face perfectly in the center of the frame. One of the things I'm most proud about this photo is the post-processing I did to make it look this good. I was able to remove a ton of the glare you would normally see on someone's glasses when stage lights would hit it directly. I think this really cleans up the image and allows the viewer to focus on the subject's face. Moving on to image 8. This is an awesome shot I got in the Dolomites of my brother Spencer doing a backflip in one of the coolest rock formations I've ever seen. The compression, lighting, and frame of this photo are just perfect. I'm really glad I had a telephoto in this scenario to get that ultimate compression and layers throughout the image. You get a little bit of blur in the foreground, a tack-sharp subject doing something dope, and then Sausalingo looming over in the background. And there is a reason why I picked this specific image over all of the other amazing shots I got in the Dolomites. And that's because I don't think any other photographer was able to get this shot. Not many people have a brother like Spencer. Of course, I did get a lot of other good shots though, and here are some of my honorable mentions. And finally, the last photo I have for you guys is this awesome portrait of my parents standing in front of Secheda, also in the Dolomites. I shot this on Kodak Gold 200 on my Olympus OM1. I took several rolls to the Dolomites and got some great shots, but this one just stood out. I took a lot of digital and film photos back to back to see if I could emulate that film look in Lightroom later on. And to my surprise, it was much harder than it looked. Well, I should clarify. It was easy to recreate the look of one film photo on one identical digital photo, but making a preset that worked across several images was almost impossible. So yeah, I guess this just confirms that there's always going to be a place for film photography. Overall, I'm very happy with the shots I got this last year. While there was a lot less nature shots this year than the year before, I was able to shoot professionally more than I ever have. This year I experimented with what it meant to take a perfect photograph. In my advanced photo class last spring, I met a bunch of amazing artists that pushed me in ways that I had never been pushed before. It was so interesting to see everyone's different style and their approach to photography. It was a great reminder of how many niches there are, and just being the best in yours is the key to success. All right, that's a wrap on my best photos from 2025. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.